that with Joe and Jen. And just want to thank everybody for taking your time out during this last month to help us celebrate. This goes on though, as you know, from our first kickoff webinar, we said into infinity, we will continue to work in Georgia to build an inclusive, empowered workforce. We need everybody's talents and skills and gifts at the table. We also have a special situation today in that our wonderful partners at the State ADA Coordinator's Office, Stacy Peace and Cheryl Ann Frazier, were successful in getting certainly one of my civil rights heroes, his father, Councilmember Michael Julian Bond, will join us at about 1:55 to make a declaration of National Disability Employment Awareness Month for the city of Atlanta. So we're so excited and thank our partners there. As always, sit back and relax, enjoy yourself. We will be monitoring chat and certainly have time at the end for questions. I don't know that I've ever been more touched and I guess just proud to have Joe Steffy and his sister Jen Stratton with us today. It is going to be a cool one because not only is it self-employment, but they just moved into a new production site. We're going to get a tour inside and outside. We're going to have time for questions. And if you did visit Joe's website, that's great. If not, we'll put it up in chat as well. So you can hit that, be a customer and look at all the cool stuff that's going on. Just one final thing. Griffin Hammis has known the Steffys, Jen and Joe's parents, for a good long time, have followed this wonderful story, and they've really set the bar high for the way that families can support a person, an entrepreneur, a talented, kind, fun, creative guy like Joe, set up a business where we all win. We win because Joe is producing a quality product, paying taxes, an entrepreneur who then shed light on the path for others to pursue the same. And if you visited our Advancing Employment website, you know that self-employment is a big one of our 8 policy imperatives for Georgia to continue to improve that. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Jennifer Stratton and Joe Steffy, and we're going to let them take it away. Again, put in any questions and comments in the chat. Jennifer, let's welcome them with a round of applause.
Are you ready? You want to do your help? Yep.
Hi, I am Joe.
I'm Jen, Joe's sister. And Joe is the owner of Poppin Joe's Gourmet Kettle Korn. Many of you may have heard over the years from my parents. Back in 2005, actually, they started Poppin Joe's Gourmet Kettle Korn with Joe in the state of Kansas. At the time, they were kind of pioneers in the industry and trying to get individuals with disabilities to own their own businesses and work closely with Griffin Hammis and Associates, as well as having some supporting from the DD Council in Kansas, from both rehab, from many different local resources there. I was in a different place in life then. I had kids and raising my own kids. And so mom and dad kind of handled Joe and took care of his stuff. For many years, Joe and dad and mom worked closely. And I think his best year in Kansas, I think he sold $85,000 worth of kettle corn, which is a whole lot of popcorn. So he's done amazing over the years. The focus at the time in Kansas was on festivals, special orders, and there was probably 8 retail outlets that they would sell to. So they worked out of a production site on my parents' property. Joe there owned his own apartment. It was a home that he lived in. He had a mentor who lived there with him on the overnight shifts and shared the housing with him. And then he had mentors with him pretty much around the clock. So he had a really good life. He loved having his own place, didn't you? And he'd get up and go to work, get to do a lot of things he enjoyed doing and loved to do for his social life. But over the years, my parents had aged. A few years back, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. They've had some health issues, a lot of falls, and they're now in their 80s. So it became a transition time for us, trying to figure out as a family, what happens for Joe. My husband and I have always known Joe would come with us at some point. We've been identified as his guardian for a long time, but to actually get to that point, to need that. And then trying to process with my parents, who obviously no one wants to give up our independence, any of us, no matter who we are. Have to give your car keys or not be able to drive or do things like that are one thing, but when Joe has been their life story, for the last 35 years, it's just hard, and you want to respect that. You don't want to take that away from them at all. So I've worked with seniors and with memory care for about the same amount of time that Joe's been around. So that's what I've done for a career. And so I understood kind of how hard it would be for them. So we kind of took a lot of time and more years probably than you normally would to give them as much time with Joe as they could. But we knew at some point he needed to come to Southeast Georgia. So in the past 2 years, we've made the transition. Mom and Dad's health continued to decline, and his last year of production in Kansas was very, very minimal. My dad's got some memory challenges, and just filling orders and getting them delivered. His heart was in the right place, but physically being able to do it wasn't easy. So it kind of got to the point we had to do something. And Joe came to see us right after COVID hit in March of 2020, I believe that was. And my sister came down from Tennessee, where she lives. She works from home. And so she came and spent 3 months with us at our house and would take care of Joe in the daytime while I was at work. Because Joe had been on the waiting list for about 10 years here in Georgia for services. But anytime his name came up, my mom and dad were doing good and weren't ready to part with him. So it was like, okay, well, we're not ready yet. Okay, so we pass on it. But we kind of were point we needed the help, and our name wasn't at the top of the list. So we had a little bit of a transition there. By the time August rolled around, my mom and dad were at the point they said, we really need him to come by you. We need you to kind of make that transition. So August 15th, we officially cut off services in Kansas and asked to start services in Georgia. That took about 90 days. It was about the middle of December before his services actually got approved and kicked in for us here. Different states have different ways that they use the funds, of course. So we aren't, I would say, funded as generously for services for Joe as he was in Kansas. So we've had to adapt some of the things and have some long-term goals of what we'd like to see happen over time. Joe did get to live out on his own in Kansas. Right now in Georgia, he still lives with my husband and I. As his business improves and gets stronger and he gets more revenue, we do foresee he will be able to do that again with someone in the home with him, but it's not happened quite yet. Not too far though, right? Yeah, he's like, not yet, but that's something we're looking forward to. But he does have mentors who come in and work with him. Two of our gals started last August, a year ago. And in December, the funding kicked in for us, and he's been trying to pop his kettle corn basically from our home. When he came, we reached out to the Department of Voc Rehab. We reached out to the Department of Agriculture, which has to, approve everything, the Department of Public Health, the county, the city, all of that. And we spent, it seems like months trying to find out. My husband and I own a property that has land on it that we thought we'd be able to, we could put a house for Joe if we wanted, we could put a production site. And so when we called and talked to the county, we learned our zoning isn't right for that. So we actually couldn't do the production site like we thought. And so then we had to go back to, okay, well, what can we do? And where could we do it? The County Economic Development Authority was great. There was a gentleman there who actually spent tons of emails with me and then would drive with us to different locations where there was a building that might actually rent to us, knowing that we would need a much, much reduced rental rate. Most places rent $1,200, $1,500 a month, and we have no money. So when Joe first came, the NDSS organization and Voya Cares had a grant program that we applied for Joe for his business. Because technically we had to shut everything down in Kansas, like completely close that business and start kind of completely over, but with a proven track record of what Joe can do. So it was a little hard trying to figure out how to do that and to get the resources we needed. And we were fortunate the NDSS and Voya Cares chose him for a $10,000 grant, which kind of got us started like, okay, we have some money, we could rent something somewhere. And that's where this gentleman took us around. We must have gone to like 8 different places. A couple of them we thought might work out, and then they all kind of fell apart under us. And my mom and dad even were here visiting, and they went with us to look at some of them. We're like, well, this one could work. And so we discovered, okay, maybe it wouldn't at one point. But we went in and met with the county, and I talked to the gentleman there in charge of all the planning and zoning. I said, are you sure we can't use our own land? Because that just seems to be the most affordable, the easiest way to do it. And he said, honestly, what you'd have to go through in the red tape to get that switched is going to take more time, resources, and energy than for us to find something. He said, but we had never met the man before. I love meeting Joe. I love his story. We taken him some kettle corn. He's like, let me make a couple phone calls. I know a guy. And he picked up the phone, he called the guy and said, hey, you busy tomorrow morning? I want to get together with you. I got something I need your help with. And he said, he got off the phone. He said, I'm gonna see him tomorrow. I'll talk to him. I'll let you know by noon. And I didn't know what he was gonna let me know, but he ended up calling a local businessman who owned land right off of exit 7 off the I-95 corridor in Southeast Georgia. So I-95 is one of the busiest highways up and down the East Coast. And everyone goes to Florida, which is 7 miles from us. So we have a ton of traffic. There's one gas station at our exit that's open. So everybody goes to that exit. It's called Circle K. It gets a ton of traffic. And the road we live on only goes east. It goes for about 10 miles. And there's tons of people who live in this area. Our county has about 14,000 people around in our local area. And to be able to be right by where we lived would be great. We live 1.5 miles up the road. The people that he called, or the businessman that he called, actually owned a piece of land where he was going to build an RV park. And he'd asked if he would let us use a little piece of the land that wasn't occupied to put a production site in. And we met with the gentleman. There were 3 partners, and it's perfect. I mean, it's the right size. We could fit what we needed. It'd have to be a portable building. We wouldn't own the land, but we could put something on the land. And we introduced Joe. We talked through what we wanted to do. And they said, we could rent this to you. That wouldn't be a problem. We'd be okay with that, wouldn't we? And they're like, yeah, they'd be okay with it. They're all local people who've lived here their whole lives. And I said, well, the big question is, what would you charge? Because that's where usually the conversations go south. And he said, I don't know, guys, what do you think? $1 a year? Does that sound okay to everybody? And I mean, we've been talking to people who want $1,200, $1,500. So to pay $1 to be able to have a spot right here on prime real estate on a busy exit and be able to have a production site for Joe where he's going to get traffic and awareness like we've never had. Rural Kansas is rural Kansas, and that's where we had worked from before. So that was a huge, huge blessing. And then they of course knew people. We needed a slab poured to put the popping area on. We needed dirt brought in because the land was a little uneven to level it. There's just been so many people that we have never before met, didn't know existed, don't know Joe's story, don't know he's been doing this for 21 years, none of that just stepped up and wanted to be a part of it and wanted to help and wanted just such good hearts. I can't tell you how cool it is. So people came in and helped and got stuff together. We did get another grant, which was amazing. And Griffin Hamus was a huge part of that. A family foundation in Atlanta actually donated $20,000, which went with the 10 we already had for us to actually order and purchase the building, which is the building we're actually in right now. We get to show you today. We literally were still moving things at 8:45 this morning. So we just got in here, and honestly, we don't have any plumbing, so we're really not officially here, but hopefully by the end of next week we will be. But there's just been a lot of really neat blessings and just the goodness of people and how they all come together, and where we might have given up or said, okay, well, we can't do it, to just keep asking, or somebody knows somebody, and it just spreads amazingly, where you suddenly have all these resources you didn't know. I mean, my husband and I have only lived in this area maybe almost 2 years. We moved to Georgia 11 years ago, but we lived 30 minutes north of here. I'm in a different area. So we're fairly new to the Camden County and right near the state line. So part of it for us is trying to learn and get to know, for us, a new community, but also to get them to know Joe as well and his business. Some of these people that we met with, some are just people who showed us their property and then we didn't end up renting it. We were in the grocery store last summer and Joe and I are, walking. Joe doesn't have many words that he uses. He has them, he just doesn't use them. So he's fairly quiet when he's around other people in the store. And somebody walked up and said, hey, Joe, how are you? And I'm like in the frozen section, like, who's talking to Joe? Trying to figure out who it was. And it was one of the gentlemen who was going to rent us one of his businesses. And they remembered Joe because he's got a Joe hawk and I don't. And they were like, hey, I remember, I knew it was Joe because I saw his hair. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's so neat to see you. Thanks for, stopping and saying hello and everything. But he's recognized out in the community when we go places. We were in UPS shipping something and the lady's chatting him away. And I'm like, how do they know you? I mean, I go some of the places he goes, but I'm not as well known as he is. So he has an amazing ability to be remembered, which is really cool for the community to welcome and see. So yeah, I know your hair, you love your hair, don't you? Yeah, everyone, please note my brother's Joe Hawk. So I'm trying to think what else I haven't covered. So currently we started last, COVID kind of shut down, like I said, the festivals for everybody across the nation. And that's where Joe probably had 85% of his business in Kansas. So we completely had to shift and kind of rethink how we could do this. My mom and dad, again, now being in their 80s, aren't overly social media savvy or tech savvy. I am not very far behind them and not knowing a whole lot about it, but we set up an Etsy store. He has his website where he can you can go to now, and we are trying to shift into online sales and then that wholesale to the retailers because we are along the busy intersection and there's so many tourists and other people that travel through to be able to hit those little target niche gift shops and tourist traps. And then my husband's in the hospitality industry. So some of the hotels where people go to stay for a week on the beach, popcorn's a family friendly snack, you can share it. So we've been able to get into some of those and it's taken us time. At first we just had 1 or 2 or 3 and then we got to where we're at 9 or 10. And I think I added up on Friday, I think we had 19 now that we are kind of juggling amongst, some are in other states. We've been incredibly fortunate to have several businesses. We're all the way up in Massachusetts, in New York, Delaware, we're down in Florida, Nebraska, Colorado. I mean, there's some businesses that actually now order maybe once a month and we ship to them and they have it on their storefronts and sell it, which is a huge win for us as well. One of the gals that works with Joe as a mentor has had her own business. And so she knows how to work Etsy and the shipping and how to save money. My dad had always said, we're not going to sell online because it costs too much to ship. You pay more for shipping than you for popcorn. And that's just crazy. So he was just really always kind of, no, I don't want to do that. But when he was here visiting last night, we sat down and kind of explained how, pirate ship kind of finds the best price for you and you can do it. So that's been a really neat thing for him. I would say from like last April, May is when we really started having more. We probably sold $800 in May. I had these listed out and I think I might have deleted it. We went from 800, 900, 1200. I believe this month, actually in October, we've had just calls out of the blue. I think we'll probably have over $2,500 in sales for Joe, which is a huge ramp up for us to get into this. We're not even in the building yet. So to get in the building is going to be just amazing that we can actually really produce more efficiently and have everything to be approved. In August, we were approved as a Georgia grown label, which is a big deal if you're from Georgia. To be Georgia grown is kind of an extra stamp of approval on your stuff. But there's a lot of businesses that want Georgia grown, especially for tourists. And even those little shops to have a Georgia grown label. If you're traveling here to visit, to go back with something that says Georgia grown is kind of like, okay, I've got something local. Again, with hotels, there are certain brands of hotel that have to sell something that's local. So to have Georgia grown is something, it's a check on their box. Oh, I've got that. We've got Poppin Joe's here. So I meet that criteria. So probably one of our biggest customers is a local hotel on Jekyll Island that can go through, $200 worth of corn in a week with no problem. Just families, soccer groups going in to play soccer. Kids love popcorn. So we're fortunate to be able to do all of that. But yeah, we're real excited. There's been a lot of growth recently. We used to have to go out and try and, hey, here's Poppin Joe's, have a sample. Just last week, we must've had 5 or 6 calls just completely out of the blue calling us that we didn't know about them. Hey, I'd like to sell your corn. What do I need to do to do it? And it's like, who are you? How did you hear about us? So it's really exciting to kind of be to the point that that's happening, but it's just going to continue to help Joe's business grow and do really well, which we're excited about. One of the things we wanted to do was show you, number one, your new building, right? Do you want to tell them that? Go ahead.
I want to share where I am now with my popcorn business.
So Joe, like I said, we're in Southeast Georgia. If you can bear with me, I'm going to pick up the laptop and try and walk you through his new production site. And then he also wants to show you, you want to show him what you do, don't you? He does many, many steps of the kettle corn process. So he's going to demonstrate some of what he does in his work every day for you. So it's a little hands-on. I apologize again. If I make you sick, I apologize. So,
We love it. We love it.
okay, so I'm gonna walk with you out front here and show you the building from the front. Okay. Joe's gonna get set up with some of his work there. So this is Southeast Georgia. It's humid today and rainy. So my glasses are fogging over. So this is, if you can kind of see over that way, there is a Circle K. That is the big only gas station. And there's an exit semis come off of. We're right off the exit. We have a Dollar General across the store, which is, everyone shops there. This is the Huck's RV. This is a business. It's an RV office where they check into campground behind us, but that is where the gentlemen have offered. And this is Joe's new production site. So it's the cutest little building ever. This is Taj, who works with Joe. So you want to push your button and tell him, what are you going to do? Yep. Go ahead, push it. Yep.
This is my new building.
So this is Joe's new building. You see, we've color coordinated here a little bit. Our neighbors actually, again, there's so many good people in the world, went out and got these huge planters for us and painted them to color coordinate with his logo. And one day came by and dropped them off. They wanted to be a part of Joe's new business. And we're very kind. It kind of helps pop the building a little bit. You can see over here in the back, we have where it's going to be our production area, where we have the tent. We have a shed to store the equipment in, so it doesn't like walk off on us or anything. And then on the stainless steel table where the ingredients and stuff will go on. But that's where we actually have to pop outside and then take it into the building. We have and again, I apologize if I make you sick. I'm trying not to. The ramp, we have a ramp here that takes you up into the production site. So we'll pop out here in big totes and roll the totes up so nobody has to hopefully get hurt or fall. We just got that shed up yesterday and we started to paint it and it's the wrong color. It doesn't match the building. So I apologize. We're kind of badly painted there, but that's a project for this week. But this is where we'll be popping. And this is Joe's building here. So we'll come in the front door so you can see it. You coming, bud? You want to open the door to take him in? Yeah? Go ahead. We did put double French doors for more light inside, but also we have large equipment to come in and out and it won't fit through one single door. So this is Joe's production site. The popcorn's going to come in from right here from outside. So this is going out the ramp to the outside. You can all see that okay. So we'll be popping out here and roll it up. I do not have the popping equipment in here yet. When the popcorn comes in, Joe, you want to come over here and tell them what happens next? Joe, come on over. So this is Jennifer. Jennifer is our mentor who's been here from day one with Joey here in Georgia.
And then we're going to show them how to do it.
This is how we screen kettle corn to get rid of crumbs and kernels.
So when the popcorn gets popped, I don't know if many of you pop popcorn at home, but there's always the holes and the little pieces that fall off and those old maids. We don't want to sell old maids to people. It can break a teeth and do other bad things. So it's important that we screen it. And this is a piece of equipment my dad built in Kansas. It's not actually sold anywhere, but it's a tumbler that they'll put the corn in. Joe will put it in and spin it, and then we tumble out all the extra. And it goes into a little, you can see down there, there's a little tote that catches all the icky stuff, which our neighbor happens to have chickens, and the chickens love the old crappy stuff that we don't want to sell. So, and this is Joe working on his tumbler. Work it all out, buddy. Alrighty. So that is plain popcorn. So Joe pops many flavors. There's 5 flavors right now total. The first one is plain popcorn. He makes from that a cheddar popcorn. So it's got a white cheddar powder. And this is how Joe makes it into cheddar popcorn.
I'm going to get your iPad and put the cheese on.
I'm gonna show them. Take off your glove. You gotta bring it close to the heat. Go ahead.
This is how we make cheddar.
So
And when we dump this.
It's a huge tumbler.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. All right. Watch out. I'm gonna do this because you don't have your gloves on, okay?
So we dump the cheddar powder
Can you
goes
turn it
in.
on?
You can hit the on switch. So this is the coolest gadget. We used to have to put it in Kansas in a trash bag, add the powder, hold both ends and circle it around for like a few minutes to tumble it. So this is like, Dad, did you know they make a tumbler? It's really cool. So we put the powder in and it kind of helps tumble and mix it. And that is how we make the cheddar popcorn. It's just plain popcorn cheddar. So anybody who has any sugar, can't have sugar, that kind of stuff, it's one of our choices for that. And then it's a very heavy pot, so the pot comes down. Joe's very strong, so we love that he is able to help lift heavy things. Got it?
Lift it up.
I'm sorry, I'm really bad at. All righty. So something else they do. This over here is where we actually make our caramel and our cinnamon flavor, 2 more flavors. Caramel is one of the most favorite flavors. You have to actually stand up on a, let's see if I can show you inside here. Okay, so this is the caramelizer. It's got 2 huge paddles. And then when you make it, you actually dump it. Let's see here. This big thing tips down and dumps into the tray here. And this tray is another unique thing. To get it to set so it's not mushy or sticky, you actually, there's air that blows up through here from underneath that helps set the popcorn. So once you make it, it sets quick so you don't have to bake it anymore. Often if you made caramel corn at home, you're gonna have to bake it in an oven. You don't have to do that, which is great. Over here then, once the different flavors are made, they have a tote of it over here. And what Joe
Push
does,
your button first. Push your
Yep.
bag.
he's gonna get close to the,
This is how we label our bags.
Wrong one.
This is how we bag the kettle corn.
you're gonna show them how you bag right here, bud? So we have the 5 different flavors. So we also have different sizes. So we have a small bag, which is a 4 ounce. And then we have a larger bag, which used to be a 12 ounce. One of the things that we discovered in Georgia and meeting the requirements in this state versus Kansas, in Kansas, we popped at festivals where you are walking around with your family and you buy a bag and you open and you eat it while you're walking. For retail outlets, you really are buying something that you probably are going to put in your pantry and maybe eat this weekend when you have a football game. So it needs to actually be sealable and it needs to have a shelf life. You know, you're not going to eat it in the next 2 hours or today. It might not be eaten right away. So to meet the codes here in Georgia, we had to change our labels. We had to add different things to it. And of course, we want to put our Georgia grown label on there. We also had to change our bags. You'll see the bag he's using here actually has a zip top to it. And then once it's zip top, we also have to heat seal it closed. And then the state of Georgia requires that we date stamped with when it was made so that we can go back. If there was a problem, we could pull it. We have a shelf life now of 90 days instead of just, 30. It used to be 30 with the bags we use. These bags have a 3.5 milliliter or mil thickness to them. And then the zip at the top and then the seal, which makes it. So Joe's had to learn many new steps from the changes from one state to another. And that's been something he's done really well at. It's not been easy and we just take it slow. Some things are a little harder. Some of the bags for our sponsor bags, which are smaller, they're a tinier bag and it's harder to get the product in it, but he does a really great job with all those. What else are you going to show him, Joe? Come over here. And we have learned in Georgia, humidity affects popcorn very quickly. So we keep things sealed up tight. Even when we pop outside, it needs to come inside quickly. There you go. What can be next?
Can you show the sticker one? The sticker. Nope, the sticker.
This is how we label our bags.
Okay, so Joe's going to show you what he does. You got a label right here. Step back, maybe you can see it better. So he's got a little jig that he uses for the different size bags. And he's got a certain spot that the labels go in to make it uniform. And again, our bags changed from Kansas to Georgia, so we had to adjust our jigs a little bit. But Joe can label like a machine. Like he sits and like, boom, boom, boom. Our bags come 50 to a bag. You gotta push it down a little bit, bud. Oh, man, huh? He says it's crooked. You can pull it off.
You can take it off and fix it.
You can fix it. You want somebody else to fix it. That's a good thing about being the boss. You can have other people do stuff when you want to.
All right, say, ta-da.
Ta-da.
You're not gonna say it?
But he does 50, the bags come in 50 packs. And so we put them in strips of 10, and then he will just sit, and it's an independent thing he can do without really much of any prompting or any help needed. So is there anything else you're gonna show him, bud? We got how we bag, we got how we label, we got how we screen, right? We make cheddar. Did you get to do that one?
We pop our kettle corn outside.
Yeah, we have to pop outside because that kettle is 500 degrees. It's very hot. It is the least fun job out of everything is actually popping because the humidity in Georgia is hot also. And just, it's either usually in the summer, we do it really early in the morning, just because it's merciless with the temperatures and then the extra heat from the corn. But we do try and get inside right away just because the humidity lid on it, seal it up tight, make it work really well. So. And then over in this corner, this is what we have is, they had this in Kansas. It's a bagging machine. Let me see if I step back, you can see it. It's a really big machine with a hopper on the top. And if we're doing, say, 500 bags of the same size, we can put the stuff in there, program it to the weight of each bag. It will put it in, it will hold it in this little, I don't know if you can see this, hold it in down here. And then when you push the foot pedal, it just dumps just that amount and starts over again. So you can go through it a lot faster than trying to hand scoop each bag individually. So that's something that's used. It's a value because when you do need it, it helps you a lot. But for a smaller orders, you don't have to do that. And then back over here, there's a little corner. We've got all the different types of bags and labels. He's got a little pegboard here that's got all the different sizes and flavors. And then we do, as you mentioned, we ship a lot of places. I think on Friday they had like 37 bags went out. How many bags did you take?
I did 37.
Yeah, Joe took 37 bags to the UPS on Friday to ship out for people who had orders. So,
Well, 37 boxes.
37 boxes. I'm sorry, 37 boxes. We've discovered that 12 by 12 by 12 boxes are a little more affordable to ship. So sometimes if people have, one huge box, it costs less to ship 2 smaller boxes just because of the way the post office works. So come back over here. So the only thing we don't have right now in the production site besides the kettle and the screening table outside is plumbing. We don't have plumbing hooked up yet. So we're not ready for our inspections. We will have the county come out, the health department will come out, the Department of Agriculture will come out. We have a lot of different entities that need to come kind of sign of approval and make sure everything's set. Fortunately for us, one of the local plumbers is one of the business partners who own the land that we're on. So he's been very gracious to do the plumbing without charging us anything except the materials, which is again, another just incredible blessing and gift for Joe with the money that he has had available to spend. So I'm trying to think, that's probably pretty much where we are today. This past summer, Joe and he lived in Kansas near my folks. In March, someone randomly contacted my parents, asked if they could buy their home. We were all like a little caught off guard and we didn't know if they'd give them a decent offer. They gave them an amazing offer. So mom and dad sold their home this summer. Joe and I went back and forth more times than we can count. I honestly don't remember how many times. And we moved them from Kansas, where they had lived with Joe, back to Iowa at the farm that Joe and I both were born and grew up at. So they're now back up in north central Iowa near one of our other brothers who kind of has an eye on them there. And they travel down and back. And Joe and I have traveled up to see them too, haven't we? How do we travel? Our best way is to fly. Yeah, Joe loves to fly. So that's a really fun thing we all love to do. It's a lot faster than driving. We drove, it's probably early last spring, we were driving from a trip from Kansas back to Georgia from helping them for a long weekend or a week. And Joe went like, I was like, Joe, we're driving. And he was like, we're like probably near St. Louis. He's giving me the sign like, why the heck aren't we flying? And I'm like, Joe, we're driving. He's like, I want to fly. I'm like, I know it's faster to fly, but we're driving this time. So he definitely wanted to fly. But that's kind of the update. My folks are there. They come down to visit, and to see his production, especially. This is kind of like a dream come true for mom and dad, just from where he started and what all they did and all the work and energy, and then kind of fearing it wasn't going to continue or not being sure what would happen. I know for my mom in particular, she's really still involved enough and wants to be where Joe is. It's really hard for her to not be here. My dad, with his cognitive decline, it's not the first thing in his mind as much anymore, but being able to come visit and to see that his business and his dream continues just means the world to them. And it's really cool to get to be a part of it. And again, just the people that have come together that, again, we didn't know people. And it's just amazing, the goodness of people. When people need those warm-hearted stories that make you feel good, we could talk for days, couldn't we, Joe? A lot of good people that have made it happen for him. So we're excited. We're on the cusp of the building opening, and we just can only imagine where it will go from here. So,
Jen and Joe, I've never, ever participated in a webinar where we got a tour, where we got to see things done that were so interesting and cool. I just want to say to both of you, this has been fantastic. We have a bunch of questions here, and if you can see chat, there's your Etsy store is there, your website is there, you're getting some orders. Are you both okay if we just ask some questions?
Yeah, I think we're okay with that.
All right, Joe, this first one is more of a comment, and I love this. Joe is the best marketing his business could ever have. The Mohawk sells it, or the Joe Hawk sells it. And that strikes me, right? All joking aside, Joe and Jen, when you hit the website, it's your face, Joe, it's your business. You can tell you love doing this, and working with family and friends. It really is just amazing. And I think that's what certainly this person wanted you to know, is that the social capital, the way that you've gotten the space, $1 a year, it's because of you all, right? It's because of you as a family, and people want to be around that. Yeah.
It's definitely been a blessing to have so many people step forward and help, for sure.
That is so cool. So cool. Okay. Let's see. Let's start with a hard one.
Okay.
What does Kansas do that Georgia should be doing?
Wow.
Yeah.
So COVID hit and it just changed so many things that I think that has to be calculated in somewhere to some of the new challenges. It probably isn't a fair apples to apples just because, okay, COVID hit and now he's here. So I want to put a little disclaimer in there because I know that affected a lot of programs and things.
Sure.
In Kansas, Joe was able to, they have self-directed services. And again, my mom and dad handled most all of that. There's very little of the setup in Kansas that I was a part of. I was, a young mom with kids growing up in Wisconsin. I wasn't right there. We came and went, and Joe came to visit us because we knew he probably came every 3 months to visit us, just because we knew at some point he'd be living with us, and we wanted our friends and community to know who Joe was. But there he was able to have his own place and have people around the clock, and he had enough funding to be able to do that. I think in Kansas, his self-directed funding was about $75,000 for the year. In Georgia, it's $39,000. So it's like you have to do more with less almost, which the other challenge, my parents were at home, but Joe didn't live with them. So he had his own place. When he came here, we really had no choice, but for him to be with us, just because we didn't have any services at the time. But we really do want him to be able to have his own place again, and to be able to have, a mentor that lives with him in his home like he did there. It'll be a little harder to do that just because we have less resources to work with. There's a college here in town. Maybe we'll find a college student, you know, who would be good with that. But I think that's probably one challenge is trying, and it's probably any state, they're trying to get the assessors that do the annual assessments to understand. Joe, since he came in August, I think Jennifer can account as best as any of us here, the decline we've seen. 3.5 years ago in April, Joe was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, which many of you may know that is common in Down syndrome. But he was like 31 years old. It's not like he was 50 or 60 or 80. He's 31. So I think since August of last year till now, we have seen the progression of that start, where Joe used to be able to do any step of his kettle corn by himself. Now he needs more prompts and sometimes like constant prompts, you know, like, let me put my hand out and demonstrate for you, because what he used to be able to just do isn't always clicking to do it. He has really good days where we're spot on and it's no problem, but there can be days where it's like, you know, what is going on? I know you know this. And just to remember not to get frustrated with him. It's nothing he controls. But as time goes on, he is needing more supports now than he did then. And, you know, we hope and pray when we do the annual assessment that we'll have enough documented examples of what's happening that we can get those supports, you know, going forward. Because you do still want to be independent. He just needs a little extra reminders to make sure things go the way they're supposed to.
Sure.
So yeah, I would say that to me, just not having the same resources mom and dad did, you know, when he came, it's like, okay, well, we should be able to get about the same. That's great. And then when they said 30, I'm like, how are we going to make that work? It's like, well, he can't live on his own right away, you know, and you know, hopefully, and it helped in Kansas, the kettle corn business and his ownership draw, you know, helps offset that so he can pay his rent that way. But we're just still getting things up and going. So.
Well, let me give you a couple of, and I see you, Darian, I'm going to get you. Janie McMillan says, my students are here watching with me and so inspired. One of my students just said, keep going for your dreams. Thank you for the inspiration. How nice.
Well,
You're helping the youth. You're helping the youth, Joe. And Joe Eckstedt, a VR counselor, says, I'll be ordering some popcorn for myself and for the office.
Oh, cool.
And Mr. Todd, please ask your question.
So first and foremost, I just want to say you are very inspiring. You are the epitome of what I try to do and advocate for, that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities want to work, and you are the image for that. You are the person that has his own business and doing the work and having all of these supports in your office. So I just want to applaud you for that and all of those accomplishments that you have, you know, came over and all those good things. You're welcome. You deserve it. But the question that I have for you is, where did this idea come from? Like, how did this accumulate? Who did you speak to first? Who helped you? What were some ideas that you had, and how did you implement them? And did you have, go ahead, yeah.
I know back in when Joe was like 14, 15 years old in school, they did his IEP for the transition years because they were coming. And they had told dad and mom that he would need to live in a group home. He definitely would need to work in a sheltered workshop. And they kind of had a very limited scope of what they felt Joe would be capable of doing. And yeah, it was a little world, wasn't it? And it kind of made my dad mad, basically. And he was out to prove that they were wrong. That's just how it does. He's like, well, that's not happening. That's not on our, but then they went and they're like, well, what can we do? Because they knew Joe, they knew he had strengths. Joe is very strong. He loves to use his muscles, right? How strong? Like, yeah, pipes right here. Pipes, right? He loves to use his muscles. If you show him something, he would do it over and over the exact same way. He's not going to, if this is where something goes, that's where it's going to go every time. It's not going to be like here and there. He likes to do things. He likes a variety. He likes to always be busy. He likes to always keep his hands busy. And if you had him go from thing to thing, he wouldn't care. And he's very sensory focused just with his autism. just by chance, my aunt and uncle had an anniversary celebration. My mom and dad went on a cruise with them to Alaska. And when they stopped in Alaska at Ketchikan, my dad went into town to the farmer's market. At the farmer's market, there was a gentleman popping kettle corn. My dad had never seen it before. We grew up on a farm in Iowa where we raised corn, and we lived on a fairly limited income as kids. And my dad would always grow popcorn. And for Christmas, we would dry it out. You know, you'd get it off the ear and you would take it to your teachers in a nice little glass jar as a Christmas present. So popcorn is something we'd always known and had, and we grew up on a grain farm in north central Iowa. So popcorn is like, my dad's like, this is so interesting. So my dad's very inquisitive. He asked the guy a ton of questions. He got back on the ship. My mom hadn't gone into town. He said, honey, I saw the coolest thing today. And they got to talk about it. He said, you know, I think Joe could do that. I think Joe could do what that man did. The listening to the kernels, knowing when to turn the gas off because of the popping noise and how it crescendos and then it goes back down, the strength you need to dump a kettle, the change of repetition, being able to bag. I think Joe could do this. And I think if I worked with him, I could teach him how to do it. And so that's where it actually started. They spent 5 years from I think 2000 to 2005 working at Walmart's on the weekends, setting up a tent. And my dad would pop and show Joe what all needed to be done to make it happen. And Joe, one by one, learned every step of the process. And he loved doing it. They wore tie-dyed, bandanas on their heads. They got their shirts over. I mean, they went out and people knew them. They'd go to the same Walmarts. People like, hey, I'm going to get some corn this weekend. There's a ball game. So it went really well. And that was kind of the trial, if you would. When Joe was still in school for part of that. But when he was 18, my dad was so annoyed with the school system. He's like, he's done, graduate, we're out, we're doing kettle corn. So it was 2005 when they actually started the business, but he was popping a few years prior to that, just trialing out and making sure he could learn how to do it and what to do. It was just, again, one of those, I would say it's a God thing that dad was somewhere, he saw something and it was like, okay, it's something that appealed to our family just from our background in north central Iowa and the popcorn, but it's also something that Joe can go from thing to thing to thing. You know, he can bag, when he's tired, he puts the scooper down, he walks over, he starts labeling at the kitchen table. You know, there's enough variety to it. It's not like he's doing the same thing over and over and over. Where a lot of sheltered workshops at that time that my parents were picturing in their mind was, you know, doing the same thing all day long at a very slow pace and not having really any variety or freedom in your work. And this gives him all of that.
Wow, what an answer. Man, you
Yes,
covered
yeah.
so much there. It was, thank you, Jen and Joe. We got about 5 minutes, maybe 4. I just want to read a couple other statements, you guys, that have come in via email. The new building and production site is absolutely beautiful. Love the call. Love the colors. Yeah. I think you've answered this one, but there was a question about just maybe in these last 4 minutes or so. Well, let me pause because Miss Butler has a question. Go ahead, Miss Butler.
Yes, I have a question as well. My question, I'm good with my hands. I can work with my hands. I can cook food. I can cook some food. I can cook food at a fast food and don't worry about that part as well. I can put it inside a McDonald's box, Bojangle fries. Certain things that I can do. I'm saying. So that's, I can prep food. I can cut lettuce, red tomatoes, anything I can do those things. I can put like these chili fries. I worked at a fast food before. It was something different, but I did it. Yeah. So it was a whole different variety, but it was something different. Like most of the time I'm in like in the freezer, getting like the freezer fries and getting the cheese out, stuff like that.
You're making us hungry, Miss Butler.
And, that's what I was prepared for that position. Yeah. When I applied for the position, So I'm just putting that to you in your hands as well, but I'm good with my hands, so that's something that I can do. So
Thank you. It sounds like you're working hard, and that is a great segue for us into this last minute. Thank you, Miss Butler.
I just wanted to learn how to make pizza, if you
Okay.
understand,
Sure.
learn how to make it. So
Sure. I love that you're interested in learning new things. That's so cool. I love it. I love it. Well, a couple other comments here. Thank you so much, Joe and Jen, for sharing your story. It sounds like you have an excellent set of parents, which isn't that true. Couldn't we all benefit from that? Well, I just want to say thank you to you both. We hope you stay on. We've got Councilmember Bond coming on here in a second or two. Joseph, if you can let me know if Mr. Bond is with us yet. Just for those of you who are interested, at the advancingemployment.com website, you can find this webinar archived, as well as all the other ones that we've done this month, plus the webinars from the last 2 seasons. We're going to certainly send this one out quite a bit because I think there's a lot of interest in Georgia right now around self-employment, making it an option for folks who are interested in kind of controlling the way their work goes each day. So we're excited about that. This last week, this final week of National Disability Employment Awareness Month here in Georgia continues to be just a wonderful experience for us. We have 11 different organizations that have become part of the Georgia celebration of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And why it was so fitting for Joe as a business owner and his wonderful dynamic sister to join us is this is the week that we've named Workforce Development and Economic Development. And for those of you who have been participating, you know that in the United States, families with intellectual and developmental disabilities represent $66 billion in purchasing power. And so that in and of itself is a great celebration of not only what we do as families, but also how we support folks becoming taxpayers. So thank you again, Joe and Jen. I can't see, Joseph, is Councilmember Bond on? Is Joseph, are you on?
Hi, Doug.
Yes, Stacy
This
Peace.
is Stacy. Peace, how are you?
Very good, how are you?
Good. I just got off the phone with Vanessa Manley, who is Councilmember Bond's assistant, and she said he should be signing in right now.
Okay,
So
wonderful.
I'm not exactly sure how his name's going to pop up, but
okay. Okay, well, that's wonderful. Thank you, Stacy.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
As we're waiting on Councilmember Bond, Kate Brady, do you mind talking real quickly, just real quick, about Governor Kemp's proclamation?
Sure. Yeah, I'm really pleased to share that Governor Kemp signed the first ever, we think, in Georgia, proclamation honoring National Disability Employment Awareness Month and Employment First. That proclamation was signed at the beginning of the month, and I don't think I'll read it aloud unless you need that to happen, Doug. But certainly we appreciate his support and that level of support. I'm sorry, I didn't realize my camera wasn't on. There we go. So really appreciate having the governor's proclamation and coordination at the state level. As we've seen in this great coalition that you've compiled, Doug, and the team at Advancing Employment to collaborate across across the DD network and across really the entire community, with the ADA coordinator's office leading in so many ways. Really grateful for that. So I think that covers it. Again, unless you'd like me to read it or share it, Doug.
No, that's great, Kate. It is on the NDAM tab on the advancingemployment.com webpage, along with the Gwinnett County council member, who also Stacy and Cheryl Ann were able to obtain a proclamation there. So, all right, thank you. I think Councilmember Bond has joined us. I gotta say, when Stacy Peace and Cheryl Ann mentioned that Councilmember Bond was going to join us, I was blown away. And I'm going to start with the first part here. Councilmember Bond, welcome and thank you for being with us, joining us in the car. My goodness, what a multitasker. Councilmember Bond represents almost 500,000 folks in the city of Atlanta. He was elected in 2009. He's a member of the Committee on the Council and the Community Development and Human Resources and Public Safety Committees. He served as a Deputy Director and Chief Programs Officer for the NAACP and has been serving for 20 years on the American Diabetes Association and the National Board from 2011 to 2013. He is Atlanta born, to the wonderful civil rights leader. Love your father's book, Julian Bond. If you don't know Julian Bond's work and life, you've got to find it out. We are joined by his son, who graduated from Frederick Douglass High School, Morehouse College, and is alumni of Georgia State University. And in 2011, Mr. Bond received his certification for the senior executives in state and local government from Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. We are thrilled, Michael, to have you with us today. Thank you so very much.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I apologize for being in the car, but I'm not driving. I'm a passenger. I want to stress that, but it is great to be here with you on such a, a great occasion as this. And it's really a pleasure for me to be here representing the entire city government. I have a proclamation from the city of Atlanta in recognition of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And so I'm going to read it in pertinent part for all of you. And it is in recognition of National Disability Employment Awareness Month, whereas the Atlanta City Council is pleased to recognize October 2021 as the 76th anniversary of National Disabilities Awareness Month. And whereas the theme of National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month 2021 is America's Recovery, powered by inclusion, reflects the importance of ensuring that people with disabilities have full access to employment and community involvement during their national recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas the purpose of National Disability Employment Awareness Month is to educate people about disability employment issues and celebrate the many and varied contributions in America's workers with disabilities. And whereas activities during this month will reinforce the value, talent of the people with disabilities that add to our workforce in our communities, and confirm the City of Atlanta's commitment to an inclusive community that increases access and opportunities for all, including individuals with disability. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Atlanta City Council, on behalf of the citizens of Atlanta, do hereby recognize the 76th anniversary of National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month. We call upon employers, schools, and other community organizations to observe this month with appropriate programs and activities, and to advance the important message that people with disabilities add value and talent to our workplaces and communities. Furthermore, we pledge to continue to take steps throughout the year to recruit, hire, retain, and advance individuals with disabilities in the workplace to pursue the goals of opportunity, participation, economic self-sufficiency, and independent living with people with disabilities. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and have caused the seal of the city of Atlanta to be hereunto affixed. Congratulations on this proclamation. And of course, it's signed by our president and all 15 members of the Atlanta City Council. Congratulations.
Oh my goodness. Yes, round of applause, please. Beautifully read, beautiful sentiments, and you hear the action at the end. The action, it's not just declaring it a good thing, but for the future, action steps to take. Councilmember Bond, you choked me up. You've inspired me. And what a way to cap off the final webinar for this month. Thank you so very, very much.
Well,
And
thank
I
you very
understand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to thank you for the invitation and glad to lend my voice and support to this important cause.
We owe you one, my friend, many, many times over. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cheryl Ann and Stacy. And I understand that that will be housed in the state ADA coordinator's office. So we want a photo so we can send it around, okay?
Most definitely. We will put it in a beautiful, prominent location and share the photograph with everyone. Thank you very much, Councilmember Bond. I appreciate your time today.
All right. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you as well.
That concludes for today. Oh my goodness. What a special time today.
Awesome.
Thank you all for joining. I am inspired and moved. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Goodbye.
What a day. What a day. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.